Hey, there it's me Eden. If you are new to the channel then please subscribe to my channel and visit my Patreon page for early access. Link in the comment, thanks. I had just about managed to feed the suspenders through my knickers by this stage. It felt really odd having elastic strands hanging down, and I was beginning to agree with Tanya that these were really uncomfortable. Right, said Nikki, seeing what I had achieved, let's get your stocking hooked up then. Do you want me to do it? She turned to the sofa, or shall I ask Tanya? Tanya shuffled herself up even more, and did not look or reply. Steady on Nikki, Anita admonished. Even I thought Nikki was being a bit cruel, teasing Tanya about fancying me, but I had learnt from observations that sisters weren't always the best of friends. Well, it looks like it's me then, Nikki announced, and knelt down on the floor in front of me. She took hold of the stocking and pulled it up firmly, much more firmly than I had dared after all the dire warnings about laddering. Holding it up with one hand, she took the suspender in the other and proceeded to fasten it. Going around to my side, she did the same with the other suspender and then stood up. How's that look? She asked. Very nice. Anita responded. It makes him look dead sexy. I can almost imagine what blokes see in them now. We'd best get the other one on for the full effect though, Nikki went on. She got the other stocking, and as with the first, rolled it down for me, so that the foot was easy to find. I took it off her, sat down, and put it on my right leg. I stood up again, waiting for her to attach the suspenders as she had done before. Suddenly the door to the room burst open, and a woman of about 45 walked in. Oh, hello Mum, said Nikki, with false brightness. She was obviously as surprised as me about this sudden intrusion. The woman came into the room and took off her coat, throwing it untidily onto one of the chairs. I've had a terrible day at work, she announced, still, I'm home now. You're early, Nikki managed to say. Yes, her mother replied matter-of-factly. Then she saw me. Oh, she said. What's going on here? Oh Mum, this is Sarah, Nikki responded. You know Anita, don't you? Her mother nodded in reply. Sarah's got to go to a posh do, so we thought we'd see whether she looked all right in one of those bridesmaids' dresses we had last year. Nikki went on. I held my breath for the response to this. Here I was, wearing just a pair of knickers, with one stocking done up and one hanging loose. My bra, although shaped by the socks Anita and Nikki had thrust into it, was hardly likely to be very convincing without a top covering it. Nikki's mum would realize I was a boy and be outraged. Oh well, that's a good idea, Nikki's mother responded at last, smiling. Hello Sarah, I don't think I've seen you before. No, she's new, Nikki went on. Tanya had stood up from the sofa and was standing by her mother, glaring at Nikki, and with a very sour look on her face. Hello Mrs. Simmons, I said weakly, smiling as best I could. I couldn't believe it. I had got away with it. She thought I was a girl, even in my underwear. It's not Sarah at all, Tanya's voice suddenly rang out to ruin my moment of triumph. It's a boy. They've made a boy dress up like that. Mrs. Simmons looked at Tanya, then back at Nikki, then at me. There was an awkward silence. It's for the womanless beauty contest at school next week, Anita blurted out. He's going to be our entry. The woman's eyes moved briefly to Anita, then back to me. They traced me up and down as she scrutinized my outfit. Well, she began, you've done a very good job. I don't think I would have realized if Tanya hadn't said. She continued to appraise my appearance. He doesn't just look like a girl, he looks like a really pretty one. You've done the makeup well. Thanks, said Nikki, poking her tongue out at Tanya. Did you shave his legs? She asked. No, Nikki replied, they look like that anyway. Mrs. Simmons raised her eyebrows and continued to scrutinize me. And knickers too, she went on. I'm surprised he let you put knickers on him. He wasn't all that keen, Anita said, but we think it'll be best because it'll make him seem more feminine. You told me it was because of the rules, said Tanya. Well, there's that as well, Nikki went on. They say that contestants have to wear clothing that's suitable, feminine and ladylike. Mrs. Simmons turned back to me. Well, he certainly looks quite feminine and ladylike to me, she said, after a pause. Well, I have to say well done, girls. He looks as if he could probably do well in a regular beauty contest, let alone a womanless one. She wasn't the first to make this observation, but it still made me flinch. I'm just going to go and make a cup of coffee. I'll let you get on. She went back to the door, and then turned again. Oh, and don't forget to let me see him in the dress. That should be interesting. With that, she disappeared. I stood still with shock. Part of me had been expecting some sort of outrage to accompany the revelation that I was a boy. I wasn't sure what I thought she might do, but I had expected at least shock. Another part of me had anticipated some sort of rescue. I had a sort of thought that if Nikki's mum realized that I was a boy being dressed up like this, she would have stepped in to put an end to the madness, but neither had happened. What on earth did you tell her he was a boy for? Nikki was demanding of Tanya. Well, he is. Tanya responded defiantly. But we wanted to see if he could fool people. Anita went on. Once you told her, the cat was out of the bag. Tanya folded her arms again. Well, she said that she wouldn't have realized otherwise, so he must be quite realistic. Nikki considered this for a while. Well, I suppose that's true. All right, I'm sorry I was horrible to you earlier. Tanya looked away to the window again. I won't do it again. Come on, help us out with his dress. Tanya obviously was thinking about this for a moment and then relented. All right. And I'm sorry I told Mum he was a boy. Nikki smiled at her, that's all right. She didn't mind. Nikki knelt down in front of me again and pulled the stocking up my leg as far as it would go. She then attached the two suspenders on that side and stood up to admire her work. Very nice, she commented. Very sexy too. Anita chimed in, enthusiastically. I know what would be good, Tanya began, he could have the matching bra and panties as well. You know, like we had to for the wedding. I thought of the pink frills on the suspender belt and immediately felt a sense of horror of any bra and knickers matching that. A full matching set, that would be nice. Anita said, beaming at the thought. Trouble is, I don't know where they are. Nikki said, thoughtfully. I found the suspender belt yesterday, but there were no signs of the bra or the knickers. I think I might have thrown them away. I don't think I kept mine either, Tanya said, reflecting on this for a moment. Maxine might have though, she said, more brightly. That's true. Nikki declared. We can ask her when she gets back from work. If she has, he can have them for the contest on Thursday. Or to practice with during the week, put in Anita. I don't see the point. I mumbled. No one's going to see my underwear anyway. Why should I have to have matching stuff? Anita looked at me pityingly. Well, it would just be so much more classy, she declared. Nikki and Tanya nodded in agreement. If you were really going out somewhere formal, it's exactly the sort of underwear you would have. That's right, agreed Nikki. I shuddered at the thought, and hoped that like her sisters, Maxine would have managed conveniently to loose the bra and knickers that went with this suspender belt. It hung on to my waist relentlessly, and as I moved, the suspenders pulled tight on the stockings. I felt like a trussed-up chicken rather than a sexied as Anita had suggested. Well, let's see what the dress looks like on you, Nikki said, going over to the sofa to retrieve it. She lifted it up and brought it over to me, holding it in front of her. I flinched for a moment. Right, she said, turning it around in her arms, we'll have you in it in a jiffy. The back now faced me, and I saw for the first time that it was not as plain as I had hoped. Covering the bottom part of the zip at the back was a sort of tail made out of the same material as the dress, hanging to the ground, and fastening this to the dress was a single cloth rose in a deep pink color. I shuddered. What's that? I hissed, pointing at it. It's just a bit of detail, Nikki responded. She unfastened the zipper and let it down, holding the shoulders of the dress apart. Okay, then, let's have you in it, she declared, with glee in her voice. I hesitated. If anything, this dress filled me with more dismay than the one at the boutique. At least that hadn't had any detail, as Nikki had called it. The only saving grace for this one, in my mind at least, is that it had nothing to do with Sylvia and her bizarre carryings-on. I moved forward and felt the suspenders pulling on my stockings as I did so. Gritting my teeth, I lifted one leg up and into the gap in the waist of the dress. My stocking slipped up and down my leg as I did so. That's the idea, Steve, said Anita, encouragingly. As I lowered my leg, the dress seemed to go on forever, but eventually my foot found the floor. I stood there, motionless, with one leg in the dress and one leg still outside. Come on then, step right in, urged Nikki. Gingerly, I lifted the other leg and, nearly falling, had to place my hands on Nikki's shoulders for support. I lifted it clear of the waist and pulled it into the abyss. After what seemed an age, that foot felt the floor as well, and I let go of Nikki. Excellent, she declared, and immediately went around to the back of me to pull the dress up. She lifted the two pieces that formed the bust and the shoulders and put them in place. I was surprised by how stiff they felt. Anita rushed over to give assistance, and fussed with the two pieces until they covered my bra at the front. That's better, she declared. I'll just do him up then, Nikki announced, and proceeded to do so. As the zipper fastened, the dress tightened across my chest, and I wondered if it was really going to fit. To my dismay, it did. Nikki managed to get the zip fully done up, and then started playing with the tail. Anita, at the front of me, pulled the skirt bit of the dress away from me and shook it gently. Tanya just stood there, staring at me. Oh, that looks gorgeous, she declared. Come and have a look. Just a second, said Nikki, from around about my bum. She stood up and came around to the front. Oh, I like that, she announced. It looks better on you than it ever did on us, doesn't it, Tanya? Yes, she nodded. Anita stood up to join them. Oh, that looks so elegant, she gushed. You really do look like a fairy tale princess in that. She moved over to me and pulled the dress at my hips. How does it feel? She asked me. I had to think about this. The bit across my chest was tighter than on the one in the shop. Together with the restrictions of my bra, this was decidedly uncomfortable. The skirt was so full, however, that I could hardly feel it was on. I felt the breeze it caused when Anita was pulling at it, but not the material itself while I was standing still. I struggled for any words. All right. I looked down at myself. Although not as shiny as the pink dress in the shop, once I had it on, this one certainly had something of a shimmer to it. I moved a little, and the skirt rubbed against my legs through the stockings. It felt surprisingly heavy. I think he likes it, declared Tanya, looking at my face as I tested the outfit. I wouldn't say that, I retorted. Well, you seem to be admiring yourself, Tanya said, accusingly. Have a walk around in it, Anita suggested. Then we can see what it looks like even better. With almost funereal slowness, I moved forward, careful not to step on the hem. It's a bit long, Anita observed. It'll be all right once he's got some shoes on with it, Nikki responded. I walked across to the sofa, slowly turned, and walked back again. You're right, Anita observed gleefully. He does look really elegant and sophisticated. I know, agreed Tanya. The dress swished around with me, as I slowly walked back towards them. It looks good, declared Nikki. Yes, agreed Anita. But what we have to decide is whether he ought to have this one, or the one from the shop. Yes, Nikki agreed. He looks drop-dead gorgeous in them both, Anita said, considering the matter. But if anything, I'd say the shop one had an edge over this. Please subscribe for the next part. And visit my Patreon page for early access.